Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I'm joined by a friend of the show. It's been way too long since we've had him back. I've missed him tremendously. I'm sure you have too. The one, the only Arthur Delaney of HuffPost. Is it still HuffPost? Because you got a new logo, and I don't know if you have a new name. It's still HuffPost, right?
Still HuffPost, slightly different shade of green.
I noticed. Arthur, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to get into what appears to be a coming calamity, although you never know with these things. They always change. But at this moment, at 4:38 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th, it appears to be a coming calamity for the House Republicans as they consider Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill.
It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill, and it will be the biggest bill ever passed in our country's history.
Before we get to that, subscribe to the feed. We appreciate your subscriptions. We appreciate the buzz. So tell everyone about this feed. It's the best feed, obviously. All right, Arthur, again, caveats galore. It is a rapidly changing environment. We just don't know where we're going to be in 2 hours from now. But what is the current state of play in as a simple English as you can give it?
So it's not changing that rapidly. What's happening now is that the dynamic within the House among Republicans is coming to a head as they reach do or die moments on their big, beautiful bill. They have always had totally irreconcilable policy priorities from different members of the conference, and they've papered over that by saying, just vote for it, we'll fix it later. Just vote for it, we'll fix it later. And so they've been through a series of procedural votes that got them to this point, but now they want to pass the bill next week, and they can no longer say, we'll fix it later.
We'll fix it later.
No, we're coming up on the final version. Now, they have a budget committee vote on the first final draft of the bill Friday morning, and they are still saying, we'll fix it later, because they'll do an amendment.
So let's stop there for a second. What are the main areas of disputes policy-wise?
The two big parts of this are the tax cuts and the spending cuts that partly pay for the tax cuts. And so the right-wingers, people like Chip Roy, want the biggest spending cuts possible.
Look, we didn't come here to claim that we're going to reform things and then not do it.
But there's a whole faction of moderate Republicans, including ones who represent districts in Democratic states and that Kamala Harris won. We're just like, no, we do not accept your steep cuts to Medicaid or to SNAP.
Now, I know I explain this in like very simple English, but I think you're oversimplifying it because you're talking to me like I'm, a 2-year-old, and I would appreciate a little bit more respect, Arthur. Okay. So we spending cuts, Medicaid, they don't want some of these reforms. And then on the tax side, there's some issues with SALT deductions and things like that. So talk about the tax side now.
So there's on the tax side, everyone loves tax cuts, but then there's this separate.
Who doesn't?
There's this separate group that wants this one specific tax cut for state and local. It's a deduction for what you've paid in your state and local taxes.
Right.
And guys,
so if you have really high state taxes, you want a bigger deduction. We're talking about like New York, Jersey, California, basically.
Those three states.
Yeah. And there are actually a handful of Republicans who are from those states who are the most endangered Republicans who really want to like up the deduction level, and they're not getting it. But why aren't they getting it? That's been confusing to me. Why not just give it to them?
Well, that's the thing. They are getting it. In the draft of the bill they're all looking at, it goes from a limit of $10,000 in that deduction to 30 with a phase out so that people who are really rich can't claim it. And they're just like, no, we want more. What number do they want? They won't tell anybody publicly. So there's
I thought it was 40.
That number's been floated, but no, it's 30 in the text, and they definitely want something higher than that, and so that's what they're fighting about. But
they're not the problem now, right?
They are the problem now.
They're not the problem in the budget committee. I'm talking about the budget committee. Sorry, this is getting really wonky quick, but we have a vote coming up tonight potentially or Friday, we don't know, and the real problem that Speaker Johnson's facing is not from them. That's going to come down the road. The real problem he's facing now is the conservatives who say you're not cutting enough from this bill.
That's right. And a bunch of the right-wingers on the budget committee said Thursday
But doesn't this bill cut a ton?
Not really. I mean, yes, one of the largest spending cuts ever, but relative to the tax cuts, they're not even trying to make it deficit neutral.
Because the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, did say that we're looking at 8.7 million or so people who will lose Medicaid.
8 million, more than 8 million people lose health insurance, with some 7 million of those losing Medicaid over 10 years. And it's $1 trillion in cuts over 10 years to Medicaid and SNAP.
And these conservatives say that's not enough because it's phased in too late, or just it's not enough, period.
Yeah, that's part of it, is that one of the biggest cuts to Medicaid is through imposing a new work requirement, which is basically just, if you don't do your paperwork to prove you have a job, we kick you off. It's a limit on benefits for people who are unemployed.
No offense to you on this one, but we have Jonathan Cohn on staff, and he knows this better than you. And if you're interested in this, tune in tonight at 9 p.m. for a live emergency briefing with Jonathan Cohn and me. Anyways, keep going.
Since you poached Jonathan from us, I've had to learn all this. So anyway, these guys are mad that the Medicaid work requirement wouldn't start until 2029.
Yeah, they want the people kicked off earlier.
Right. And it's like, that's suspicious. You mean you're saving money on paper with that? You're not actually enacting.
That is true. There is something valid about that complaint. Is we're just hiding the pain for a few years.
Yeah, the next president could undo it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get rid of this veggie talk and let's get to the candy. How real is this in terms of it could all blow up? Like, because we've been down this. Let's be real. We've been down this road so many times. It looks like it's going to blow up. They make some concessions to the conservatives. They get on board. The moderates get pissy, but they don't do anything about it. And then, Victoria Spartz, changes her mind 15 times and eventually says, yeah, I'll vote for it. And isn't that just what's going to happen here?
That's definitely possible. Like, you look, you take them at their word. There is no way it can pass. But if you have a brain and a memory and you're a sentient being, you know that they will all fold except Thomas Massie, or that at least they all can fold. And to get here on one of the procedural votes, all of the conservatives said, well, we won't vote for this. And then they had a meeting with the speaker, and I guess they might have got Trump on the phone for that. They all marched out and caved together. And that's a dynamic that can't come into play yet, Donald Trump. Like, he winds up on the phone.
So you're talking about the earlier vote on the rules to get us to this place we are in now. Now we have another vote on the budget that's coming up, and that's just in the committee. And they have to get that, and then they have to cobble it. That's to cobble it all together, and then they have to consider it for the full House.
Right. So they want to do that next week, and that's a toughie. That's where the SALT guys, the Medicaid guys, they all come in. They all come in. And then after that, you have the Senate, where a bunch of senators are
so
on
here's
both
my
sides.
question for you. Yeah, because this is what happened yesterday, is that Josh Hawley, Ron Johnson even, they said, we're not going to pass this bill. We're just not going to pass this bill. Does that impact, you've been on the Hill today, has that impacted at all how some of these House Republicans, maybe the moderate ones, think about this? Because in essence, they're being asked to take a vote, to go on record saying, sure, I'm fine voting for a bill that will cut Medicaid by 8 or 7.8 million people, knowing that it won't pass because, and in this case, because Josh Hawley says there's no way I will stomach a bill that's going to have 7.8 million people lose their Medicaid.
Yeah, that's making a problem for Republicans. I talked to Nick LaLota, one of the New York SALT guys, yesterday, and he said, I don't want to vote for this thing until it's got Trump's blessing, it's got the Senate's blessing. I don't want to take this pointless vote if I'm not getting the things I'm asking for and then have it blow up anyway. But the House does not have the leverage to get the Senate's blessing on this. And there's no doubt that if they do pass a slightly modified version of what they got right now, if they do pass it in the House, the Senate won't accept it and they'll wind up in a negotiation with them too. I still wouldn't say this thing is doomed just based on how everyone has caved before.
What do you make of how the speaker has managed this process? Definitely a lot of kicking the can down the road, a lot of assurances that things will get fixed eventually. And eventually you do have to say yes or no to it. But he's not there yet, right? There's some more kicking that can be done.
Yeah, he's been pretty skillful. He's always affable and put together, and he describes it
Put
as,
together.
you say, Mr. Speaker, you cannot possibly reconcile the requests of the different corners of your conference. And he says,
Right.
oh, yeah, well, we're just going to turn some dials and find a level that suits everybody. He keeps saying that. And quite frankly, he might be right, but I don't know. It certainly could tank. And we've seen Republicans in the House particularly expose themselves to massive embarrassment many times in the past few years. It hasn't really happened
Not this
to Mike
year,
Johnson
though.
on this
Yeah.
scale, but it certainly could.
Yeah, that's like a Kevin McCarthy era thing, right? It's like, oh no, we really screwed up, and then they like have to go back to the drawing board. It hasn't really happened yet.
No, and Kevin McCarthy, you would see him exasperated and get cranky. And Mike Johnson has never seemed like that, at least not to me. He's always calmly taking questions and giving you a wry smile when you ask about the impossible task he's got. And so far, it's mostly worked. There have been less important votes that have failed or that they've had to yank from the floor. And that's been an embarrassment to people who like care about House rule votes, which I don't think any normal person should care. But he's barreling for it as if this will be fine, even if they are saying, well, yeah, we might have to postpone that budget vote. And then that, if they did that, it could delay their goal of passing the whole thing by Memorial Day. But I still wouldn't.
That's crazy.
I'm still skeptical that it would totally fail.
Yeah, Memorial Day is tight, dude. That's pretty crazy. All right, Arthur Delaney, get back to work, man. What are you doing talking to me? You should be roaming the halls, getting the quotes.
I was just roaming.
Go back and
I stopped roaming for 2 seconds. And you tell me to roam.
Oh, man, it's such a pleasure having you on. Why don't we do this more regularly?
I don't know, because you got Cone, I guess.
I got Cone. I poached a good one, didn't I? All right, Arthur, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right,
Stay in touch. Get you back on.
All right.
Take care.